Hello and welcome to the program. I am Imonia Marere. My guest on this edition of the program is Her Excellency, the Ambassador of Germany to Nigeria, Ambassador Annett Gunther. We shall explore the whole gamut of German-Nigeria relations, which spans over 60 years, dating back even to the colonial era. Now fast forward to contemporary era. Germany, the economic powerhouse of the European Union, maintains a robust bilateral relationship with Nigeria, Africa's biggest economy. For instance, Nigeria is Germany's second largest trading partner in sub-Saharan Africa, with priority in the area of energy. Germany-Nigeria trade is estimated to have hit 3 billion euros in 2022, an increase by 1 billion euros from the 2 billion euros in 2021. Now, while Nigeria exports crude oil, food products, and raw materials to Germany, Germany's exports to Nigeria include machinery, food, and chemical products. There are over 90 German companies operating in Nigeria, providing about 1,700 direct jobs and many more other jobs indirectly. To advance cooperation between the two countries, a German-Nigeria Binational Commission was founded in 2011. It comprises working groups in business, energy, politics, culture, and migration. And in the wake of the prevailing global climate emergency, both countries also agreed to set up cooperation on stabilization and security, on energy transition and climate action, resulting in the commitment of huge funds. Germany-Nigeria Energy Partnership began in 2008 and was expanded in 2021 with focus on the rehabilitation and expansion of electricity production through renewable and improved energy efficiency. But what impact has that had on Nigeria's energy transition plan? Another area of collaboration has been in the humanitarian field, where Germany continues to make substantial contributions to the United Nations Development Programme implemented Regional Stabilization Fund for Boko Haram conflict-affected areas. We shall look at the range and impact of Germany's investments in Nigeria over the years and what more can be done. It's my pleasure to welcome Her Excellency, Ambassador Annett Gunther. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll be going straight on to our discussion with Madam Ambassador.
The Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, politics, and power on AIT.
Thank you so much for staying with us. People, politics, and power. And my guest is Her Excellency, the German Ambassador to Nigeria, Ambassador Annett Gunther. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's begin from perhaps the most contemporary issue in the world today, the crisis between Israel and Hamas. Now, only a few days ago, the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, did say that Germany's place is at the side of Israel. And it stands solidly with Israel. And we also know that over the last couple of days, Germany, which has perhaps one of the largest Jewish and Muslim communities in Europe, has had to ban pro-Palestinian and pro-Hamas protests. Not the only country in Europe to do so, but one of the countries that has done so. The question one has to ask as a first thing is, how does Germany navigate this very intricate web of relationships?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. And you're quite right saying that this is a very difficult situation in international relations. But right from the beginning, the German government has condemned the terrorist attacks, the brutal terrorist attacks of Hamas terrorists on Israeli civilians. And our government has always stressed that, like any other country in the world, Israel has the right to defend its people and its territory. This attack has killed thousands of innocent people in Israel, and this cannot be tolerated. At the same time, we have always stressed that international humanitarian law must be respected in any of such conflicts, and we, of course, have advocated for a peaceful solution to the conflict as much as possible. But we always stress Israel has the right to defend its territory and its people. You also mentioned the situation in Germany. Yes, this is a very difficult one, but again, the German government cannot allow any demonstration that glorifies brutal terrorist attacks and the killing of innocent people. We have not banned demonstrations, we just have, there can be demonstrations demonstrating solidarity for one or the other side. There's a freedom of speech, freedom of expression in Germany, but we cannot tolerate anything that is anti-Semitic, that glorifies terrorism and killing of people.
Some people have described that as a violation of the fundamental human rights of those who wish to protest or demonstrate on either of the sides, and that the ban is uncalled for.
As I said, demonstrations as such are not forbidden and have not been prohibited. Just the glorification of the terrorist attack of Hamas terrorists against innocent civilians in Israel and any anti-Semitic expressions in public are absolutely not tolerable in Germany.
Now, you just talked about the humanitarian situation in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, for instance. There's been a lot of hue and cry and a lot of pleadings, a lot of calls on Israel to allow humanitarian intervention in the Gaza Strip. That doesn't appear to be happening at all. How is Germany helping to persuade Israel to allow for humanitarian intervention by bodies like the United Nations, the Red Cross, and all other such non-governmental organizations that are willing to help in this situation?
Yes. Yes, first of all, Germany is one of the biggest donors worldwide of humanitarian aid. In any humanitarian situation, be it because of conflict, be it because of natural disasters. So we are the biggest, one of the biggest donors internationally. And I used to be, by the way, the Commissioner for Humanitarian Assistance of Germany some 7 years ago, and I traveled a lot, and I also traveled to the region, and I visited humanitarian situations in Gaza, in the West Bank, and in the region, in Lebanon, Jordan. So we have always been supporting the people in need and also the people in the region. Germany is one of the biggest donors to UNRWA, you know, the UN organization that supports the Palestinian refugees. So you cannot say that we are not in support of humanitarian needs on either side. Wherever the needs are, we always support that. And our Minister of Foreign Affairs visited Israel a couple of days ago. Our Chancellor was there. And of course, part of the discussions were always to demand respect for international humanitarian law, and then that includes, of course, the provision of humanitarian aid to those people in need there. So we have been talking that, and we hope that the situation, together with the UN, the Secretary General has arrived in Egypt on the border to Gaza. So everybody is working hard to enable the humanitarian aid to go into those people in need, but to the civilians in need, and not in support of the terrorists.
Right. Now, I asked that question specifically because of the very latest developments flowing from Thursday. Well, you know, earlier on, the Israeli authorities asked civilians in northern Gaza to move over to southern Gaza. That is in anticipation of the entry of ground troops into northern Gaza. But then, overnight, we have seen situations where even southern Gaza itself has come under Israeli attack, and civilians are mostly the victims of these bombings and attacks. And everyone is just wondering, how can the world help to prevail on Israel and bring succor to these suffering women and children and civilians who are not necessarily members of the Hamas?
That's true. As I said, Israel has the right to defend its territory and its people, and as long as the attacks against Israel are ongoing, I suppose that is the case. But at the same time, we have always stressed, and also our representatives who were in the region have stressed it vis-à-vis the Israeli government, that international humanitarian law must be respected, that the civilian institutions must not be attacked, that as much as possible the civilian population has to be protected from any military activities, let's put it like that. So yes, we have promoted that, and we are still doing that, and we are still part of the efforts that are ongoing in the next few days in Egypt with the peace conference. So our minister is also going, and many other high-level representatives from international organizations, countries around the world are very concerned, and they're all going to find a peaceful solution as soon as possible.
Okay, yes, before I veer off from the Israel-Palestinian crisis, just one last question, which is, what is Germany's position on a long-lasting solution to the crisis that has been there for well over 60 to 75 years?
70 years. Yes.
What do you think is the ultimate solution to that crisis, Israel-Palestine?
You're right, the crisis exists also over more than 75 years. And we have always supported a solution that brings peace, a peaceful life to both the Palestinian people and the Israeli people, and we have supported a two-state solution, and the international community had high hopes in the Oslo Accord, and then we were disappointed, and we have seen it didn't work out the way it was envisaged, but still we are not giving up. We are still fighting for a solution that will provide peaceful and prosperous life for all people in the region.
All right, let's leave it at that for now. And if you have any reason to come back to it, we may. But let's come to Nigeria-German relations. This is a relationship that has been on for about 60 or over 60 years. What is the state of that relationship today, Nigeria-Germany?
Yes, you have said it before in your introduction. It's a long-standing relationship, and it's one that has grown over the years, and today it's very strong over various sectors, be it the political relations, be it economic relations, be it cultural relations, be it support in strengthening democracy, democratic institutions, climate, and energy questions have grown to be a very big and important sector of our relations, because internationally these topics have become just, so important that we have to put them a bit at the center of our cooperation. But always, as we said, humanitarian issues. We are also one of the biggest humanitarian donors for people in need in Nigeria, be it natural disaster, be it people in the northeast. Development cooperation has grown over the years, spans to programs at the moment that amount to over 600 million euro in development cooperation, various activities, skills development, also energy, productivity of the agricultural sector. So we always agree in bilateral negotiations which are the priorities of the Nigerian government, and that's where we put our development cooperation money. Let me stop here. Maybe you have more questions.
Yeah, I have more questions. Let's in fact begin on that score from the trade relations between both countries. Nigeria does export a number of products to Germany, and in return imports quite a number from Germany. How does that stand today? What's the volume of trade between both countries? Is it a balanced trade relationship or not?
It's not completely balanced, but it's not as bad as you might think, because of course Nigeria has many things to export. Of course, energy resources in the first place. You said it has grown to 3 billion euro.
As at 2022.
Yes. Compared to the 2 billion before. So 1 billion within 1 year. So we see an upward trend. And we also see that German companies are increasingly interested in getting involved in Nigeria. Not only trade, also investment, production, creating of jobs, creating of added value in the value chain. So I feel the interest is growing, and we have a chamber of commerce in Lagos, and they tell me that, and also we have a bilateral chamber, but they tell me that they get increasingly inquiries from German companies who want to come and invest in Nigeria, in particular because in view of the new administration and the announcements of the government about reforms of strengthening the economy, strengthening industrialization of the country. I think there's a feeling in the German business community that this is the right moment to come and be interested in Nigeria's economy and in cooperation with Nigeria.
Now, of course, you know that there is a direct correlation between foreign direct investments and the political atmosphere in any country. Are you saying that a number of German companies are beginning to think that, yes, this is the right time, and that Nigeria's political evolution is beginning to give them some more confidence to want to invest in Nigeria?
Yes, I think so, because the first bold measures by the government especially to abolish the various exchange rates and to open that up, that has been an impediment in the past for many German companies that were engaged in Nigeria. So this for us is a sign that the economy is going to be opened up, to be liberalized, and that gives, of course, increasing confidence and chances for the German economy to come and invest in Nigeria.
So moving forward, we should be expecting a lot more interest from German companies and corporations, even for government, to get into Nigeria and invest directly.
I'm not sure the government invests a lot in terms of development cooperation, in terms of the projects that we are doing. And in particular, in the energy sector, you may have heard about the German-Nigerian Hydrogen Office that was founded about 2 years ago. So we invest in an environment that talks about hydrogen, about renewables energy is about how can we go that path that is laid out by the energy transition plan, but how can we go together? How can we support with technology, with capacity, with knowledge? How can we pave the way or help to pave the way and go the way together? Because we will sit together at the COP28 very soon and at the following, and we all bear responsibilities. So I think this is what we're bringing in, this kind of cooperation. And there are some I heard about 2 German companies, I don't know the names now, but they are very innovative, for instance, in the solar sector that they have brought and built up. So I think this sector in particular has a lot of opportunity.
Tell us a little bit more about the hydrogen office in Abuja. That was opened in 2021. It just seems as if it's only an office. What are the likely projects that will come along with for the purpose of helping with renewable energy?
Of course, the hydrogen office is the starting point of our cooperation in that area. Over the last 2 years, I think they have brought together stakeholders from all spheres of Nigerian public, be it the legislators, be it the industry involved, be it science, to map out the legal and economic opportunities that are there for a hydrogen sector to grow. Which are the steps? There is a study that has been published on their website. There you can, it's very comprehensive. They have had many workshops and conferences just to start a discussion about this subject, to create awareness that there is an opportunity, because hydrogen, and Nigeria has many of the ingredients that you need. You have the water, you even have the sun, so you can have solar energy, you can produce green hydrogen, which will not only pave the way for Nigeria to go to a more climate-friendly environment, it's also an export good that is sought after worldwide. So if we pave the way to increase the discussions about hydrogen and the potential for production of hydrogen in Nigeria, that will help go the way in the right direction together.
Yeah, I'm very interested in the aspect of the production of hydrogen. It presupposes that Germany and German companies will eventually assist Nigeria in setting up production centers for these, or in fact factories for the production of hydrogen energy, given the fact, as you say, that Nigeria has a lot of the materials and of the resources that is needed or that are needed for this purpose. So we should be looking forward to having German-assisted production of hydrogen energy.
Yeah, that's the future. That's where we want to go, but there are a few steps to go to create the environment, to find the right conditions, find the right partners. So we have started this discussion, and we are there to continue on that way. The project, which is funded by my Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has just been extended for another 2 years, so we will keep going together on that path towards hydrogen in Nigeria, probably green hydrogen. That would be wonderful, and it would help both sides, because in a partnership, we have the interest in helping our partners to be more climate friendly, to be more emission neutral, support the transition plan, but also Nigeria will profit if nitrogen can be produced and even exported. So,
in other words, that future is nearer than we think. You talk of a future of green energy and all of that, following this partnership.
Yeah.
So that future could be just 2 years away or even 3 years away.
I don't know. Maybe that's a bit too close. But as I said, the energy transition plan of the government is a very ambitious one, you know, emission-free until 2060. But as I said, maybe we can go the path together a bit faster, and maybe the path can be a bit greener, and we reach our goals even earlier, because internationally we all know the pace of emission reduction that we are at now will not be enough to reach the Paris climate goals. So we all have to work together to be better in that area, to reduce emissions and be more climate friendly.
Certainly the levels now are not sustainable, and that's what everyone is saying, from one COP to the other, from one conference to the other. Even at the last UN General Assembly, all of this came up. And there is this feeling by the Global South that the Global North is not doing enough in reducing carbon emissions. And it's not also doing enough to assist the poorer Global South to help it transit from traditional forms of energy to greener and safer energy. What does Germany think about that? That the Global North is not doing enough, either in reducing emissions or indeed in helping the Global South to sustain itself?
I think we have done a lot to support what you call the global South in following a more climate-friendly path in the development of their economies. But I think the economic growth and growing the economies must not be a contrast to reduce emissions to be climate-friendly. So I think if that path is a green path, is a sustainable path in terms of climate change and climate goals, I think this is the way to go to support a economic development in those countries that is climate change friendly and sustainable. So this is where the support comes from. But you are right, and it's the international community negotiating every few years, and it feels like there's no progress. But let's say without all the COPs, where would we be? Nowhere. So it's also, in a sense, awareness raising, and some countries are more aware of the need to speed up our reaching our emission goals. Others are not, so they have to be convinced. But we have to work together, and we have to continue that dialogue. Otherwise, because we're all living on the same planet, you know. And I think there is enough awareness. The G20 talked about it. They're not always on the same page on that subject, but again, they are the biggest countries, emitters, as they're called, and they have a certain responsibility. And I think these discussions will help us just to do more and to convince more governments to come along on that way.
Now, you spoke earlier about Germany's support for Nigeria's energy transition plan. I recall that a few years back, Germany also tried to assist Nigeria in improving its electricity grid through presidential power initiation using the Siemens technology. Where does that stand today?
The presidential power initiative, which was or is actually geared at improving the grid, the transmission of power to the users. Let's put it like this. Yes, it was developed by former Chancellor Merkel and former President Buhari, and has grown ever since. The first steps have been gone. Siemens Energy has delivered the first equipment under this initiative, power, what are they called? Transmission stations, distribution stations that are about to be installed. But this is the first step, so we have to work with the new administration and see how we can take that presidential power initiative forward, because I think it addresses a very important sector of the energy sector in Nigeria, which is distribution and transmission, the grid, so that the power can reach where it is needed. In industry, you know, economic development needs power and reliable supply of power, but also the people need a reliable power supply to live a life in dignity and to develop. So that's where we are. We had the discussion with the new administration how we can progress on that initiative.
All right. My guest is Her Excellency, the German Ambassador to Nigeria, Ambassador Annett Gunther. We'll be back in a short while, and when we return, we'll be looking at other areas of relationship between Nigeria and Germany. We've talked extensively on the energy sector. We'll be looking at the cultural sector. We'll be looking at development. We'll be looking at the humanitarian support that Nigeria is getting from the German government. And of course, we'll also be talking about the support for governance, good governance, in terms of democracy and rule of law. Stay with us.
People, politics, and power on AIT.
Thank you so much for staying with us. People, politics, and power. My guest, Her Excellency, the German Ambassador to Nigeria, Annett Gunther. Thank you so much for your time. So let's look at the level of humanitarian assistance that Germany has been rendering, both in Nigeria and across the West African sub-region. I know, for instance, that your government has been doing a lot in the northeast of Nigeria, particularly with the affected areas of the Boko Haram crisis, both in terms of humanitarian assistance and in terms of security stabilization, talking about training for security personnel and all of that. Give us some more insight as to why Germany decided to be of assistance in this regard.
Thank you very much for that question. As I said earlier in the program, that Germany also on an international level is one of the biggest donors of humanitarian assistance. And in that regard, as I also said, wherever in the world people are in need of humanitarian assistance, we try to help. Globally, we know that the resources for humanitarian assistance in the world are shrinking, but the northern region in Nigeria, as you said, and the Lake Chad region in general is one of the areas that we have been investing a lot. Over about 87 million euro in the whole Lake Chad region in 2022, and I think for the whole of Nigeria it was about 57 million euro in last year, but that includes, of course, also assistance to victims of floods and other disasters. On the other hand, we try and we have to reduce the humanitarian needs. As I said, resources are shrinking worldwide. So what do we do to reduce the needs? The best thing to reduce the need is to stabilize the region, to bring peace and stability to the region so that the people can go back to their livelihoods, that they can go back and grow the food that they need, so that they are not dependent on our humanitarian assistance anymore. And this is what we are doing with our stabilization work, also in the Lake Chad Basin region, but in particular also in the northeast of Nigeria, where we have invested in areas that have been freed from Boko Haram. We go there, we bring security, we support the security forces, we try to bring back education, health, all the services together with the government there. We try to bring back a normal life to these people and to ensure that they come back to their to the areas where they used to live before everything was destroyed by Boko Haram. And there's this one very famous village in Borno State, not far away from Maiduguri. It's called Ngaranam. There's also a movie about it, or a film, documentary, that had been completely destroyed. And together with the Borno government and with our international partners, UNDP and others, we rebuilt that village. The people come back. Now they have a livelihood. They were given new homes. They were given cattle or goats. They were given a little seed money to start their life again. And this is also a contribution to bringing peace to the region, but also to reduce those humanitarian needs that we started to talk about. So the stabilization is an integral part of what we call the nexus. So what is the nexus? The nexus is that humanitarian assistance, stabilization work, and development work must go hand in hand. So we cannot leave it at humanitarian assistance. We have to go all the way to bring the life back to the people. That's what we are doing in all those areas, and Germany is heavily investing because we believe that it is possible to bring back normalcy to these formerly areas that were formerly terrorized by Boko Haram.
Now, there is a perception in some parts or in Nigeria, for instance, that there's hardly any humanitarian assistance or even economic aid that comes from the West that does not have or do not have strings attached. Is Germany doing this out of free will, or does it have any political, economic, or whatever strings that are attached to the large sums of money and resources it is investing in humanitarian aid and development?
I don't think that there are strings attached. There may be interests attached, but no strings. We believe that we are all interconnected. What happens in Nigeria, what happens in the Sahel, that eventually affects Europe and Germany. We are interested in a stable region. We are interested in solving the conflicts. We are interested in growing the economies of the region, because only strong countries, peaceful countries, will develop, will in the future maybe not need our assistance, but be strong economic partners where we can invest, countries that can export. So we are not interested in a region that is in conflict. We are interested in a peaceful region. Humanitarian assistance, as I said before, of course, there are no strings attached. And economic cooperation means development. Development means peace. Peace means stable international relations that can grow in the interest of all the people and countries involved. So in a nutshell, this is our interest, is a peaceful and stable Nigeria and region, because, yeah.
Okay, let me take that to the cooperation that Germany and Nigeria also has in terms of migration. It is on record that that cooperation has been intensified in recent years. And this is thought to be as a result of the fact that there are so many Nigerians who are beginning to see Germany as a very habitable country to go to. And so the German authorities has intensified this collaboration between the two countries on the return of Nigerian migrants, and Germany is also assisting the Nigerian Immigration Service in the areas of biometric data collection and border management. Now, let's look at, you must have some data, some figure as to the number of Nigerians who go or come to Germany on a yearly basis.
That's a difficult question to answer, but I know that there are more than 80,000 Nigerians living in Germany. So this is quite a big number. not as big as in some other countries, but as you said, Germany is also an interesting destination for Nigerians to go to. And it's known that Germany is lacking skilled workforce, and we have changed our immigration policy, and a new skilled labor immigration law has been passed to make it easier for skilled workforce from other countries to come and work in Germany. This has been recently, so we are still working and improving the conditions for that, to easing the processes for visas and immigration procedures. But the interest is there. You know, we desperately look for people to come and support our economy with their skills, their knowledge, and their workforce.
So what kind of skill sets are we talking about here? The kind of skill sets that Germany would really want to see of Nigerians who want to migrate?
Actually all. Skilled, highly skilled, academic, to lower skilled or even non-skilled. But the regulations are not there for all. At the moment, we have the blue card, Europe-wide, that improves or eases the access for academically skilled labor, but we're also looking at all the other areas. Actually, what we need is skilled workforce for our industry, for our small and medium enterprises, because Germany's economic strength is not the big companies like, I don't know, Siemens we talked about, or Mercedes-Benz. It's the small and medium enterprises that are 90% of the German economy. And these companies, very small ones, medium-sized ones, they desperately are looking for workforce. The health sector, the hospitality industry. So it's various sectors that are in need of workforce.
Now, it goes without saying that whoever wants to migrate to Germany must speak the German language, or at least learn a bit of the German language. The Goethe Institute has been in Nigeria since 1962. And I hear that there is an increased interest by Nigerians, particularly young people, to learn the German language at that institute. Is that correct?
That's very much correct. And maybe that's part of that trend that many Nigerians discovered Germany as a possible destination for their education or also for work. I think 2,000 people passed the language tests at the Goethe Institute last year. So that's quite a number. And I think, and the Goethe Institute, I think, is in the process of now also opening classes in Abuja. Because so far they have been there in Lagos and I think in Ibadan. So they open classes here. They have also opened in Abuja recently the opportunity to pass the tests here. And that shows quite clearly that there's an interest. And it's also natural, because I don't think that you will be very happy or successful if you go to Germany and you don't speak any German, if you don't know anything about Germany. So I think this is a very healthy trend that will help promote that, what we call legal migration, work migration, educational migration to Germany. So we already have many students. There are 4,000 Nigerian students in Germany. That's quite a big number. And 1,000 of them, by the way, have scholarships. And that number is growing, of even students who are interested to study in Germany. We're very happy about that.
All right, so let's talk a bit about culture. In 2022, December to be precise, your foreign minister returned some bronzes, valuable bronzes, Bini bronzes were returned to Nigeria. And a lot of people seem to think that, yes, they are beginning to see a change of attitude by the Western countries in returning what was taken from Africa at one point or the other. How much more of that are we likely to see from your government being brought back to Nigeria?
Yes, this is a very good question, and I think this was a very important moment in our bilateral relations when Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock visited Nigeria last year in December. In particular, and she had promised in June, when that agreement was signed, she had promised, I will bring some of them back before the end of the year. And she did come before the end of the year, and she brought, as you said, about 20 or 22 of the most valuable, the most beautiful ones, brought them back to Nigeria. And the process has been a long one. This is very regrettable, but today we are very happy that we have this agreement, that the German government has officially returned the ownership of all the bronzes in all our museums back to Nigerian government. So this was a symbolic act to bring back 20 of them, but in fact, the ownership of all the bronzes and artifacts in German museums is now with Nigeria. And it's the Nigerian government, represented through the called Nigerian Commission for Museums and Monuments, that is in negotiation with the relevant German museums about the fate of those artifacts. They belong to Nigeria, it's theirs. But they discuss, will they be there, will they be left as a loan, or will they come back in a certain amount of time? So this is now a negotiation that goes on between the government and those museums. But officially, it all has been given back. But I'm not sure how practical it would be to bring all the 1,000 here and just put them on the table. So I think the artifacts deserve a dignified process, that they are going back in an organized way, in very close cooperation and negotiation with the Nigerian government.
Are some of these artifacts in the hands of private museums, or
yeah, they are public and private museums,
public? Okay.
But they all have committed to return those bronzes.
Oh, that's quite cheering news to hear. Well, let's spend the little time we have left looking at what you envisage during your time here would be the kind of progress that will be made between Nigeria and Germany. The German-Nigeria Bilateral Commission has been in place. How much is that commission doing to strengthen relations and cooperation between the two countries? And what do you think is the future of that relationship?
The Commission has been meeting on a regular basis in those areas that you said: politics, culture, energy, rule of law, support for security force. So this has been and met for the last time, I think, in 21, which was at the height of the COVID crisis, and I think it was, I wasn't here at the time, I think it was a virtual meeting, and now I think with the new administration, this is the right moment to take this up again, and even to bring it to a higher level, to intensify that dialogue, to make it a bit more dynamic, more permanent, rather than just meeting every 2 years in those working groups, to really concentrate on establishing intense relations in all those areas, at all levels, all the time. We are living in very difficult international, as we initially said, conditions. Climate change is a pressing issue. Energy is a pressing issue. Security, regional security also within Nigeria is a pressing issue. So I think we want to intensify our relations in all this area, especially the security cooperation, our support for security forces, the police reform, our support for the NDLEA with our dog school, support for the military, We have a technical advisor group here that has different projects, and we recently had a visit from our Ministry of Defense to discuss the next phase of that cooperation, how that can be intensified. So I think we are, and then also with the energy cooperation, as I said, Presidential Power Initiative, Hydrogen Office. So I think we want to intensify that. We want to bring it to the next level, where Germany and Nigeria, both the strongest economies on their respective continents, both countries with their biggest population on their respective continents. I think we are very natural partners to link Europe and Africa. So I think, Nigeria is has always been a very important partner. I think we want to bring this relationship to a higher level, to the next level, and intensify.
Well, Your Excellency, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today on the program. We look forward to hosting you again, maybe sometime soon. And I hope that at that time we'll have a lot more to talk about on Nigeria-German relations and global politics generally. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for
having me. All right, my guest has been the Ambassador of Germany to Nigeria, Ambassador Annett Gunther. And that's it for us today. We thank you for investing your time with us, and we look forward to being with you again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.